that pushing a button, getting a print, and moving on is just not what photography has ever been.
I have to interrupt you for 1 second. My husband keeps saying to me, just print the print button and move on to the next one.
Right.
And I keep saying, it just doesn't work like that. But,
No. Well,
but so there you go.
It doesn't if you want to get out of the image what is really heartfelt about the potential of the print. Printmaking has always involved a lot of looking at what the manifestation is, and then trying to figure out what the print can be, and then working toward that and seeing it evolve. It's not at all uncommon, or it was not at all uncommon in the darkroom to spend the day testing and looking and trying to get the basic look and feel in, and then working on the next day trying to get the balance just right, and then working on nuances of the development process to the point that it might take a week to get a print. That's not unusual in traditional photography. And when you start to think about how much quicker it is in terms of being able to get something out the other side, it doesn't mean that what you're getting out of the inkjet printer is of any real value as yet. Sometimes things work beautifully and that first print does look good. And we do have the advantage in this age of Photoshop so that when we're editing the file, we're essentially doing a lot of what we did under the enlarger historically by burning and dodging, lightening and darkening, and doing that basic image balance. But the print is still a discrete and different thing. And it has the ability to be made close to the monitor, but because it's a different thing, it always has to be seen in the light of being a discrete physical entity that has both shortcomings as opposed to the transmitted light of the monitor and all sorts of attributes that the monitor can never carry. And you need to sort of suss out what those attributes are and try and really pursue them aesthetically so that you get what you have in mind or what you start to imagine is possible. And at the same time, look at where you're disappointed and see where you can make the print look more like your aspirations from the monitor. So in that sense, a fine print sort of becomes a balance between the difference between what's on the monitor and what's on a piece of paper and the potential for what can be in a print that a monitor can never be. Both the physicality of the piece of paper and just our way of interacting with it is just fundamentally different. And so part of what I want to do with this intermediate class is just that, work at those differences, nuances, and evolutions. Partially in response to you and I talking a couple of weeks ago, I decided that in July I'm running a 1-week advanced fine art printing digital workshop.
I'll sign up.
And
Nice.
that's exactly what it's designed to do, is to take the time and just work on developing the images into the finest prints that we can imagine. And just making sure that that time is committed, and psychologically as much as anything else, because sometimes that's what it takes. I remember early on in my marriage, Mary and I had just built the darkroom when we had moved in together, and I was out in the darkroom all day, and I came in at the end of the day and she asked me how it went. I said, well, I've almost got a color pack. In other words, I had almost, after a whole day of working, got the color enlarged, tuned in so that the color was looking about right.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I had a print yet that I was happy with. And I keep remembering that was a normal thing, that it took days and days of work. And in that sense, the whole notion of how you value the print changes too. If it's an incidental consequence of pushing a few keystrokes, it almost devalues the potential that a print can have as a well-crafted, finely honed expression of a heartfelt desire to hold a moment and then make art. Holding a moment and then making art. I mean, that's the best of what photography is, in a sense. And that's what I try, at any level that we do the printing class, that's what I try to reach for. But definitely what I want everybody to slow down into the mode of, if that makes any sense.
When you do a test strip, what size do you suggest?
Well, I like to do them so I can get about 6 on a single sheet of paper, but it depends upon how important the detail is that you're trying to see. If you were to do nothing more than 4" by 3" so that you got 4 on a sheet of 8x10. That's also fun.
That's what I did when we
Yeah.
were printing in January.
Yours look, I remember your test strips were great.
They were like 4x3.
4x3,
or
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Whatever
And
it
that's
takes to get it big enough so you can see, but fast enough and economical enough for it to make sense when you're
Yeah.
you're not shooting in the dark, because if we're really exercising color management, you should be pretty close. But that doesn't mean that the profile is perfect, because they never are. And it doesn't mean that that transition between the transmitted light to the reflected light doesn't have a profound impact on your appreciation of what the image can be.
Now, on my printer at home, I'm having a problem with things being a little bit too red. And so I printed up some targets. And hopefully, maybe I can use your machine. And
Yeah, we can certainly
come
run
up
some
come up
profiles.
some profiles.
So you got the instructions. In the
Yeah, and I was able to do it. It was
Yeah.
sort of like, oh gosh, I guess I've learned something. I remember the first time I did it, I was like, for like 2 hours, and I came into the workshop the next day, and I had the total wrong thing. So that was kind of exciting.
Well, it's easy to do with profile targets, because unless you print them very precisely, they're useless. And so, almost in a sense, Adobe disabling color management, no color management in Photoshop, and creating this little color profile utility has maybe made it simpler for people, because there's fewer things to print incorrectly.
How you,
I just finished Stephen Johnson's intermediate print class. I previously had taken a 5-day beginning print class, and this was a great addition, additional chance to do some more printing, and we were fortunate to have a small group in this case, because we got lots of time and attention from Stephen, and I feel like I got some beautiful prints, and I'm anxious to take another class, and also maybe try a field class as well. Stephen's very patient, and he's a Photoshop whiz, so every time I come in I learn something new, and it's been a great experience.
I've just finished taking the intermediate printing class, and I have taken several classes from Stephen Johnson over the last 2 years. For me, it's been like a building block. Every class I take, I learn a little bit more. There's a lot of hands-on experience. He's here and very helpful working through different files. And I'm going to take it again in May, and I can't wait to come back and work.